What's up, Autocons and Deceptibots? Deceptibot9 here, back finally for another video. I know it's been a little while. You'll notice I've had a little bit of a scenery change here. I'm in a different room. It's not a corner anymore, unfortunately. It's a solid wall, but we still got some amazing display pieces out here. And I'm here to talk to you guys today about Starscream. Do you like Starscream? I didn't used to for a while. I had a weird period of not really liking Starscream. I would always call him in my mind my least favorite Transformer character. And then I aged up a little bit and I went, no, that's crazy. Why would you not like Starscream? He's easily top tier character, obviously, right? And in the past couple of years, there have been some amazing toys released out of Starscream. And my Starscream renaissance really kicked off back in 2018, 2019, when Siege dropped. And that takes us to our first contender of the day, Siege Starscream. Now, Siege Starscream really rejuvenated the Starscream love for me toy-wise. For a long time, I didn't own any. I had the classics way back when. I never had the Cybertron version. I didn't have the animated version, didn't have the Prime version. Classics was the only one I had, and somehow I ended up not having it anymore. And so I had zero Starscreams. I didn't buy the Combiner Wars version because that was the midst of my hatred. I didn't buy the Power of the Primes version. Nothing. And Siege Starscream, I saw that they were making him into a Tetrajet, and I was all for that because I like the Tetrajets. And in fact, I happened to end up liking this mold so much that I bought almost every single iteration of it, only missing out on Red Wing and Skywarp. Red Wing's getting a re-release, so I might just be down to missing Skywarp at this point. But Siege Starscream, fantastic figure, in my opinion. I know some people don't like the shell formery aspect of it because, yeah, he is all kind of compressed up in there. And some people don't like that it's a flat top here and all that kind of other stuff. But I'm just glad we have a Tetrajet toy. And I love how it looks in Tetrajet form. And I love how it looks in the robot form. And the transformation, although simplistic and, yeah, I guess it is kind of shell formery, it's still fun. I still have a blast transforming this guy back and forth. Although, minus the one actual chest plate pop-off aspect, which was fixed on most of the later releases. But on Starscream still, that's just a minor technical difficulty. Some people don't like the battle damage, as we get the battle damage effect here. I think it's fine. It never really bothered me as much as it bothered a bunch of other people. I think it was a neat aesthetic to have onto the toys, but I understand why some people would want a clean version of. But overall, here in Tetrajet mode, he's looking not too bad. And let's go ahead and spoil the other two figures that are going to be in this video with comparisons. Here's Siege Starscream next to Earthrise Starscream, who is also great and we'll talk about. From the sides, the bottoms, they look pretty similar, pretty identical, except one's from Earth and one's from Cybertron. And the other figure we're going to compare him with today in this video is the SS-06, I think? Yeah, 06. Starscream. Just Starscream from the first Bay movie in the first wave of the studio series. Obviously, these two are completely different. What are you going to do? That's what the movies do. Anyway, let's get on to transformation. Now, I'm trying something a little different here. Hopefully, there's an overlay of me transforming him up close so that it's not so far away. But I'm still going to talk about the transformation here. And now, Siege Starscream, along with his other Tetrajet brethren, have fairly simple yet fun for me transformation. It really sort of makes sense, and I'm no engineer, so I don't really know how you could do it a different way. The Tetrajet is quite a unique jet, that being that it's not Cybertronian. But that makes me think that you could take a little more liberties with how it looks in certain areas, as opposed to when you're copying a real jet and you kind of have to make it look in a realistic style, which we'll get to, of course, with the later two But overall, nothing fancy. Boom. And here we have then Siege Starscream in his fantastic looking robot mode. And I have to say, I think the robot mode really is the shining point of these Siege figures. Sorry, my dog is whining at the door. The robot mode on the Siege Seekers is the highlight point. I think they look fantastic. It looks like a great modern update of just the Seekers in general. And overall, the articulation is pretty nice on him, and you can get some pretty great poses going for him. And overall, Siege Starscream just has the sort of Starscream aesthetic that I have come to really dig lately. I really like the way the wings look, not necessarily from the back, but the thing I really like about the Siege Seekers is not only can you angle the wings like back and forth like this, but they angle up, and that gives them a really distinct, menacing type of look to them that I really, really enjoy and I really like. But going back, I have to say the articulation on this guy just really shines, and the robot modes on the Siege Seekers are just incredibly amazing, and it holds up to me as probably one of the best molds out of the Siege line. And it's one of the ones that didn't actually carry over into Earthrise, but Starscream himself did. Which takes us to Earthrise Starscream. Now, Earthrise Starscream was another sort of figure that was helpful for the rejuvenation of my Starscream love, because when I first saw it revealed and people were talking about how he was basically an upscaled, improved version of the Classics mold, I was like, well, I got to get my hands on that, since I haven't gotten my hands on the classic one after losing it several years later, or ago, I guess. And once I got Starscream in hand, I was blown away. Fantastic molds here with Starscream and the Earthrise Seekers, at least the two that I have. I got the Target Thundercracker Skywarp 2-pack. Missed out on the Coneheads, though, which I am, frankly, kicking myself for. Not the point. Anyway, here we've got Earthrise Starscream in his vehicle mode. I believe it's an F-15, I think. My father-in-law told me that one time, so we'll see if I remember that correctly. Anyway, he looks great in this mode, and he does have the traditional sort of robot under the jet type deal, but he holds it well, and there's certain areas I wish there was a way to cover up this little gappy area there, because frankly, that looks quite strange coming in from the front. But otherwise, I can understand some of the things here on the sides. They don't really look like robot kibble for the most part, except for unless you know that these are the feet and whatnot, but not much you can do there. So let's get a comparison. Here he is with SS06 Starscream. Now, these two are really where the similarities of Starscream kind of come into play, despite them being different jets. They still are both fighter jets and ultimately look fairly similar. They're not too drastically different, at least in my opinion. I am by no means a plane expert, but just by mere looks, they look similar enough, right? Now let's jump into the part where this figure for me really shines. Besides looking great aesthetically in both modes, this transformation is tons of fun. As much fun as I had with Siege Starscreams, he is just kind of so-so, you know? He has his ups and he has his downs, but Earthrise Starscream's transformation is quite different for me. Not different in the way of it's unique and innovative or whatever, but different as in it's just differently fun. I love fiddling with the Earthrise Seekers back and forth. I do it with Thundercracker and Skywarp all the time, just because it's one of those transformations that I really don't mind doing multiple times over and over. And I didn't with the Siege version either, because I have 6 versions of that mold, and if I put all of them out in front of me, I could just sit there and transform them all back and forth. And the same deal happens here with the Earthrise transformation. And I'm sure that would apply to the cone heads as well. As you can tell, I'm quite upset about not being able to get the cone heads. And with transformation all said and done, we land with Earthrise Starscream's robot mode. Now, in verse of Siege Starscream, I feel aesthetically, as much as I like this robot mode, and as fun as the transformation is, as much as the jet mode looks great, I have to say, comparing to the Siege version, I just like the aesthetic design choices of the Siege version much more, and I'm not quite sure why. I think part of it's the wings. I like the intakes up here at the top rather than the jet intakes. This also could be a result of me just preferring Cybertronian vehicle modes over Earth vehicle modes. I know it's going to sound a little odd, but that's why I loved Siege so much. I loved some of the out of the realm of possibility Cybertronian vehicle modes like the Tetrajet. And they made for some super aesthetically pleasing robot mode designs overall. And Earthrise isn't bad by any means because it just goes back to being traditional G1, right? Same thing with the Earthrise and the Siege Prime. Earthrise Prime just is fantastic figure overall, right? But he's aesthetically just designed as the G1 Prime, whereas Siege is, yeah, he's G1, but he's a little different. He's got a little aesthetic twist to it, and that I really, really enjoy. But this Starscream, by no doubt, is fantastic. And if you had to choose between the two Starscreams, Earthrise or Siege, I'd probably say go with Earthrise, mostly because I feel like most collectors or fans are just going to prefer the Earthrise overall. It's more G1 accurate, it's more Earth mode based, the transformation's a little more fun, the figure holds together just because of that chest piece keeps falling off. A lot of people just like the design and the choices overall. And I can't blame them. I love this guy, and I love the way he looks. Speaking of aesthetics, it's time to finally jump in to Studio Series. People love to rag on the Bay movies. They have their reasons. Most of them are probably right. I, as you can tell, grew up with the Bay films, so they have a special place in my heart, design-wise and just as films in general, seeing as they were a major launching point into the franchise for me. It was a big mainstream way to get me engaged, and it got my friends engaged because it was a major motion picture release rather than just being a small thing on Cartoon Network that I watched. Now, the story behind me getting this guy is quite interesting because he released in the first wave of Studio Series back in early 2018, and that's when I was still kind of on the fence about Starscream as a character because Siege didn't come out until late 2018, early 2019, and like I said, that was kind of my renaissance with Starscream. So I missed out on this Starscream, and I never saw the tattooed one in stores, as I remember, the second wave re-release of this Starscream. And so I thought I missed out on Starscream, and I was just going to have to pay for it on eBay, and the price wasn't too much higher. It was a little higher, but what are you going to do? Then, the other day, I was in a GameStop that was on sort of the other town over from mine. I don't venture out over there all too often in this time, obviously. But I was over there running errands, and I stopped into the GameStop because I've had a couple good collectible hits there. I found Ezra and Chopper from the Black Series there, the original releases. And to my surprise, I walk in there, and they have like one Transformer product, right? It's a Studio Series, and it's this guy. How? How did he end up at a GameStop a couple towns away from mine? I don't know, but since I had a Starscream Resurgence, I figured might as well grab it, right? And I have not been able to put this guy down for the past couple days that I've had him. He is a lot of fun, in my opinion. And I believe this is kind of an upscaled remodeling of the Dark of the Moon Deluxe, but I never had that one. So I cannot confirm nor deny that. But what I can confirm is that this guy is super fun. The transformation I haven't been able to stop doing, and he looks great in both modes. He has what I like to call the Doom 3 fallacy, which would be, it's a great design. This is my opinion, of course. It's a great design, but not a great Starscream design. I don't know. It's the Starscream, it's one of the Starscreams that I grew up with. So when I see it, I know it's Starscream, but I can understand some of the other people who don't think it's Starscream. Anyway, let's see that transformation. So the transformation on this guy, like I said, I just have not been able to put it down. It does some really neat things with how he folds up and covers things, and I just really like the way it moves around and the way it works. I think it's one of the better jet formers because it doesn't just sort of plop everything under there. It tucks it all away in a pretty neat way. And then it folds out into the Dorito-shaped Decepticon that we all know and some of us love. I'm not going to say all of us love because not all of us do, apparently, clearly. But I do. I like this Starscream design. People like to rag on it. I never have. I've always quite enjoyed it. And it still holds true into this Studio Series figure. And here is Studio Series 06 Starscream up in his robot mode. And it looks great. This figure in and of itself looks awesome. The Studio Series has been able to take these designs from the Michael Bay movies, even some of the weirder ones, and turn them into pretty solid figures for the most part. And this was coming from the first wave. And the first wave, for me, was kind of duds, honestly. I was all for the Studio Series. The Bumblebee was okay. The Prime from the first wave was okay. The Ratchet was also kind of just okay. Where Wave 1 shined was the leaders, Blackout and Grimlock. Those two figures are phenomenal, and I love those figures. But the other ones were just kind of I never got Crowbar, and I never got Stinger. And so the fact that I'm liking this guy so much, and he was from the first wave, really shows that he was a diamond in the rough, I guess. This guy can get some pretty neat poses out of. The way his arms articulate are pretty phenomenal. Even his weird little chicken legs are pretty good. And the details that they're able to pack into this guy are pretty incredible. And one of the big gripes about this figure, though, is that if you look at him from, I guess, the butt side, is that there's just this big, like all of like the compression of the guy is just all there, and his waist is just itty bitty tiny. It's not really a problem unless you're looking at it from, depending on part of the side or all from the back. And one other thing that I feel is really neat with this guy is that his weapon is, you get the missile pod that he carries in the first movie. And he has this little transformation gimmick where you fold in his hand and then you plug in the missile port, or the missile pod, and then it's transformed out of his hand, just like in the film. And I always love it when figures are able to replicate the weapons out of the hand gimmick that they show in TV shows or movies. And now to compare in robot mode, yes, clearly we can see why this is not Starscream to many people, because how you get from this design to this design, I don't know. It's one of the far out there ones in terms of being a character that is supposed to be this character. And if we're talking even more being this character, it's the Earthrise one here. And yeah, it's how they got that comparison. I don't know. I mean, really the only similarities I kind of get are the wings being on the back and the cockpit on the front. Little design nods. And he's a jet. So, and then some people will say, well, he's not even the right jet. Whatever. Anyway, you guys, thank you for watching the Starscream Showdown today. I'm not really going to rank them because there's only 3, and honestly, they're all kind of equal to me. I don't know how to choose one over the other. These guys are all fun figures. If you have the chance to pick any of them up, definitely go for it. I know the Starscreams, the Siege one, is at Ross right now, going for about $12.99. So if you didn't get them on the initial run because you thought 30 was too much for this Siege version, definitely pick them up at $12.99. It's a steal of a bargain. I'm still out there hunting for a $25 Masterpiece Movie Ironhide. But that's all for today, Cybertronians. I'll catch you in my next review. There we go. Yeah, that's right. All right, guys. I'll catch you later.